Greetings, universe. My name is Orbital Bacon. Welcome to another live stream. I am your host, Certified G1, and a real friggin' prime. Thank you for tuning in. Glad you all could make it. Hope you're doing well. Good to see some familiar faces in the chat. Mega Doomer, what's up? Jazz Wolf Blaze, Battleframe, hello. Hello, Battleframe. Zahira Smith, what's going on? Chaos King, howdy. Good to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. So I know I had mentioned on the last one on Tuesday that I was going to do a stream on Wednesday, but this was a bit more of a project than I was expecting. You know, I was doing some research and I wanted to give a full, complete review of this, and it just wasn't ready Wednesday night, and I didn't want to go in without all the proper work done. So I pushed it back to today. So that being said, I bring you tonight a full review of KAMEN America. For anybody who's not familiar with it, it's an indie comic that is done by some guys who were industry professionals. You know, they've done work for Marvel, IDW. I'll show you some examples of their stuff. But these are guys who know what they're doing. They're very talented, very creative, and they put out this indie book, and it's been getting some buzz around, like I see on Twitter and various places online. And people are a little bit divided on it because some people think that it's just like a fan service type thing. But anybody who gives it a chance will find that there's way more to it than just some fan service. Now, I'm not going to deny that there is some appealing art, to say the least. But as I said, anybody who gives it a chance and sort of looks beyond that surface level art, regardless of how you feel about it, you're going to find some really good story stuff that's missing from modern comics. You know, that classic storytelling, classic heroism. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to give you basically a full review. I won't give you really any spoilers because I don't want to ruin anything for people who do want to go check it out. But I'll kind of give you the basic synopsis, sort of what you would read on the back of a movie box or something, you know, if it was just a brief thing to kind of get you into it and show you some of the art and stuff like that. But like I said, I prepared a lot of research for this. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a little bit different from some of the things that I've normally done. But like I said, it's so good. Like I want to share some good stuff. You know, we have our fun sort of taking shots at some of the crappier media that's out there these days. But there's also a lot of good stuff out there. And so this is one of the things I want to talk about. And I'm trying to just... hey, Jazz Wolf just rolled out $1. Thank you, Jazz. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hell yeah. If anybody wants to support the channel through Super Chat or through the link below, that is much appreciated. As well as I do have the merchandise shop up if you want to get yourself a shirt in the process of supporting the channel. My most popular design right now seems to be this one here, the Optimus Prime Leader, and I've got Cybertronian text on there that says freedom and justice, because that's what Optimus stands for. So if you want to support the channel in that way, there's a link in the description below. But thank you, Jazz. I do appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get into the review here. So as I mentioned before, this is done by guys who have experience in the business. Timothy Lim is, if I'm pronouncing, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but Timothy Lim is an artist and illustrator. He started out with fan art publications. IDW used to have, I don't know if they still do it, but they would have back page art. A lot of comics would do this, where they would feature artist submissions on the back pages of individual issues. And so back on G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero issue 24, he started being featured in the back page art. And since then, he has been hired to do work for the likes of Stan Lee and Dan Gilvezan, who's the voice of G1 Bumblebee. And you would think I'd have something to say about Bumblebee, but I mean, that's pretty cool that the artist would do work for people like Stan Lee. I mean, that's Stan the man, right? And his artwork has been used on official merchandise for various conventions like San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, he's definitely made his way around in the industry. His art has definitely been seen by quite a few, many people. Lim's recent comic book work includes a tribute work to Harold Ramis in Ghostbusters number 17, Mass Hysteria, Part 5. And he also did a variant cover for the first issue of IDW's 2019 Transformers series. And this was, it was a pretty hard to come by variant cover because I believe it was what they call a reader's incentive, where the comic shop has to order a certain number of books to even be eligible to get this variant. But it's immediately recognizable as his art style. And something that you'll see sort of as a ongoing theme is that he loves to insert little visual gags, visual references, Easter eggs, all sorts of things. I mean, just in this cover alone, you can see all sorts of stuff. Crimzeek on the monitor above the kid's head. You've got a G1 Megatron toy, like very obvious G1 Megatron. You've got Starscream in vehicle mode on the seat of the chair at Megatron's feet. You've got an Omega Supreme down there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little Grimlock on the bed as well. And then of course Optimus smiling. Because this was done for the kids comic book. It was I don't know if it's some sort of charity thing, but basically it was aimed at a younger audience. But still, he packed it full of visual references and Easter eggs, and you'll see that that's sort of an ongoing theme, something that Timothy Lim loves to do. And I love that stuff myself. It's kind of like if you ever a fan of those gotta find it all, not Pokemon, not gotta catch them all, but the where you have to find all the objects hidden in like a busy picture. It was kind of like that. So I like stuff like that. His focus though has now shifted to creating original works. He doesn't really do as much from what I saw for other companies anymore, and has focused now on original works with writer Mark Pellegrini. And Mark and Timothy have teamed up on several books, including Kamen America, but they have also done works such as Black Hops, which is about a secret agent bunny, and Walmite, aka the Magalorian, aka the greatest book you've never read, but we'll definitely be taking a look at this series very soon. I found all sorts of goodies while getting into the creative team that is Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini. So yes, we will have a stream coming up in the future covering Walmite and, and the Magalorian. It's good times. It's good times. All right, so the character of Kamen America. Let's get to the main focus though here. The character of Kamen America started out really as like a parody, okay? And at first glance, you might think, hey, it's Wonder Woman, right? It's a spoof on Wonder Woman. And there are definite similarities, but you're wrong. You're wrong. It's not Wonder Woman. It was never Wonder Woman. It's actually Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel. That is who the parody is actually targeted at. And when you take a closer look, you can see a lot more similarities between Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, whatever you want to call her. But you'll be able to see a lot more similarities between those two characters than Wonder Woman. Plus, Wonder Woman is still hot in her comics. So it's, why make fun of Wonder Woman? There's no, she's still pretty cool. So the target is Carol Danvers, because Like I said, Wonder Woman, she still looks good, but Marvel Comics has become increasingly more progressive in recent years, and Lim noticed a decline in the quality of art, particularly in the level of visual appeal that the comic book characters are supposed to have. I mean, it's a visual medium, so the characters should look good, they should look appealing. And people can often say, well, art is subjective, so you can sort of argue about the quality of the art itself. It may not be your preference if you like the more sketchier look with all the lines, for shading, or if you want a more refined look with bolder line work. But at the end of the day, it needs to be appealing. Comic books are a visual medium, and they need to be visually appealing. That's what's going to sell books. And so when Lim noticed that there's this decline in the visual appeal that can't be denied, as Marvel went more and more in this progressive direction, he decided, well, I'm going to do my own thing, and thus Carly Vanders was born. And that's the real name of Kamen America, is Carly Vanders. Her name is actually a rearrangement of Carol Danvers. So if you look at the name there, swap the D and the V, and you get the name Danvers and Vanders, as well as Carly and Carol being very similar. I've even seen some spellings of Carol have a Y in place of the O, so you could almost argue that that's a swap in the name as well. But it's a clever little play. You know what it reminds me of is Deadpool. For any of you that are familiar with Deadpool's origins and how his name is Wade Wilson, and he is actually meant to sort of be a spoof, or not as he didn't really start out as comedic as he ended up, but he was sort of a spoof on the Deathstroke character from DC, who was named Slade Wilson. So Marvel did a little cheeky thing and called him Wade Wilson, and his name was Deadpool instead of Deathstroke. And so here we have Carly Vanders instead of Carol Danvers, and in her first outing here, she even has the name Warhen, which is kind of taking a shot at the 90s name that Carol Danvers, or code name that she went under, which was Warbird. And this was a name, Warhen. If you're like, well, why Warhen? I thought she was Kamen America. Well, this was at the behest of her talent agency. And yes, she has a talent agent. And yes, he looks like Spike Spiegel. We'll get there. but yeah, she was originally, in her first outing as a superhero, going under the codename Warhen to sort of poke fun at Warbird. And that really cements, along with her name being Carly Vanders, the parody of Captain Marvel and not really Wonder Woman or any other character. So, a few little clever things similar to Deadpool, as I mentioned. And so you have these parody roots. But there's more to it than that. Like I said, it would be not much to it if it was just a parody. So let's get into the backstory here. Kamen America is the story of, as I said, Carly Vanders. Charlotte is her full name. She goes by Carly for short. She's from Indiana, and she's a seamstress who aspires to become a fashionista. She pursues all of the possible ways that she could do this, including joining the USO as a costume designer. And it sort of looks like one of the dancers from the Iron Man movies. I think it's another nod or poke at Marvel, depending on how you want to look at it. But she's basically getting into the entertainment industry. She's a dancer, a designer, just doing whatever she can to pursue her dreams, get into the fashion industry. She wants to make costumes, to make dresses. Not costumes. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. She wants to make dresses. It's easier said than done, however, And Carly grows more and more frustrated as her goals become seemingly unobtainable, because it's hard to get noticed. It's just like doing YouTube here. There's a lot of people doing it, a lot of people trying to get into that industry, and so she's frustrated. She's not having a good time. But a twist of fate occurs during this weird it was like this weird cloud that was following her. They don't really explain it too much. It's just a freak accident. She's on tour for the troops abroad, and this, as I mentioned, this cloud from the sky just unleashes a bolt of lightning and zaps Carly. She survives though and becomes a living battery. She's basically supercharged and able to manipulate her bioelectricity into weapons. You'll see, if you read the books, you'll see that they add other characters as it goes along that sort of control other elements. So you've got a fire character, a water character. So similar to Avatar or something, there's earthbenders, firebenders, waterbenders. So she would be like a lightning bender. Now, I don't know if the full reveal of where this lightning bolt came from, and if it has, I don't want to spoil it. But my theory is that maybe it could be something like Zeus. I don't know how full on comic book levels of fantasy this is going to go. It does get pretty silly, as we'll soon see, but I'm thinking it might be a lightning bolt from Zeus that empowered her here. But it gives her, as I said, it gives her the ability to use electric type weapons. She can basically manipulate her bioelectricity in various ways. She also has the ability to fly, and it gives her blonde hair like a Super Saiyan. She was a redhead. She was a redhead before, but it gives her blonde hair like a Super Saiyan. But it works in her favor to sort of hide her identity. She wears a mask, but with most characters, both male and female, when they don't really have a full face covering like Spider-Man or Iron Man, and they just have something slightly changed, like Superman taking his glasses off, or in this case putting just a mask on. Well, the hair color change also helps hide her identity. So it's sort of a funny way to explain how silly things like that in comic books and anime that happen, well, hey, it could actually be useful. So unfortunately for her, a whole bunch of kaiju appear around the same time, which is kind of why my theory of some sort of connection to godlike creatures, I don't know if it's Zeus specifically, but I'm thinking that it's either some godlike creatures that, these like titans, these kaiju have unleashed. Either that, or it's like science experiments. We could always go with science experiment, unleashing random powers upon people and monsters upon the world. But because the cloud followed her, that's a little bit more supernatural. I don't think that's science. To me, that's more supernatural. And then, of course, with the kaiju, that also fits in if they are supernatural titans. But we get a slew of monsters, and the monsters themselves are, filled with Easter eggs and references to other things. But they appear around the same time, and she basically has to fight the monsters, still pursue her dream of getting into the fashion industry, and then because superheroes are like a known thing in this universe, she becomes sort of like a celebrity. And goes on talk shows. It wants to be, interviewed, and people want to take pictures and selfies with her and stuff like that. So it becomes more than a full-time job. And so she's a little frustrated with it, but at the same time has a strong sense of justice. And so it's the story, at least at first, is Carly kind of struggling with her principles, being put to the test as she has all these different obligations, and she has to basically weigh her options. Like, what are you going to do? Because you can only, a person can only be pulled in so many different ways. But see, here's the thing.
the story doesn't just end at mere parody, and that's what I wanted to get into. There's a lot of sort of just, okay, it's a parody of Captain Marvel. They're sort of taking shots at Marvel comics a lot. There's a lot of Easter eggs and references and things like that. But what often happens when there's a lot of creative talent involved is it can't just be contained to one thing. And so KAMEN America ended up expanding into much more than just a one-off parody. And what's cool about it is not only did she get costume changes, sort of like upgrades to her look, and get the official KAMEN America name, but the roster of characters expands. We get new allies, we get new enemies, we get more Easter eggs. You know, a lot more Easter eggs, but we get a lot of great stuff here, such as her KAMEN team of KAMEN Comet and KAMEN Ramen, and these are the aforementioned firebender and waterbender characters. And I know that they're not actually benders. This isn't Avatar, but that's just what I'm going to call them. They're controlling these elements, and so I'm just going to call them benders for now. So you've got your waterbender, your firebender, lightning bender, and they have their little catchphrases and everything. It's a lot of fun. I mean, just it goes beyond just, okay, this is parody and stuff. It really becomes its own thing. And the Easter eggs, I mean, even in the villains, you've got this Power Rangers looking guy. It goes to everything. It's not just comic books. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, anybody who the way I worded it here in my notes is there's a lot of references for the well-traveled geek with the keen eye, because it goes beyond comics. You've got Power Rangers, of course, Kamen Rider, because the name KAMEN America takes inspiration from that. So you've got a lot of Japanese tokusatsu and kaiju references. You've got American comic book references, anime references with the Sailor Moon stuff, you know, the whole let's get changed in that previous slide. So yeah, the well-traveled geek, the well-traveled nerd with the keen eye is going to get a lot of mileage out of these books, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So and here's the thing, all kidding aside, all jokes aside, there's some real heart and soul here as well. There are some moments that felt just as meaningful and impactful as any of the comics that I've read from the big two, you know, Marvel, DC. Anything that people would say, oh, well, KAMEN America is not a serious comic, it's just a joke, I want to read serious comics. This has hit just as hard as any of the quote unquote serious comics. You know, it's not all jokes, it's not all laughs. There is actual heart and soul in this story, something that's actually sorely lacking in modern comics. You know, if anybody wants to say, oh, that's just a joke, it's just a parody, well, I would say there's more heart and soul here than in what you would consider a serious book or a quote real comic. You know what I mean? The thing about it is, modern comics, they're more concerned with the political agendas rather than telling good stories. I've said this before, and a lot of people have shared this opinion, and you can see it. You can see it in their books that they have more of a message that they want to push that it's more like personal to them rather than, hey, let's tell good stories, let's make great heroes of these characters so that people look up to them. And that's sort of why we have you know, merchandise and movies and all this stuff, because people, you know, they look up to these characters, they mean something to them. So as an example, I'd like to show you a few pages from a modern Marvel book. I don't expect you to just take my word for it. I'm going to show you a few pages from a modern Marvel book And then I'm going to compare it to a few pages from the first issue of Common America. And they're actually very similar. You'll see that the scenes that are depicted are very similar, but they're also very different. And so let's take a look at these. So what we have here is this is an issue of Invincible Iron Man, which depicts Riri Williams at a young age. It's sort of her, you could almost say that it's her origin story, because it's what gives her motivation, why she wanted to become Ironheart later in life. Okay, so we see here that she's in class. It just says years ago, so we don't know exactly how old she is, but obviously she's, younger. It looks like elementary school here. So she's in class and she's standing up. All the other kids are sat down, except for this one kid. It looks like he's returning to his desk, but she stood up and she says, "Hi." And the teacher says, "Well, this is quiet time, Miss Williams." And Riri says, "Well, I wanted you to know I have decided what I will be when I grow up." And the teacher says, "Okay, let's hear it." That's a very patient teacher. "I am going to be a scientist." And the teacher says, "Great. Great? Yeah, that's great. No, you're supposed to say, you mean like a nurse." And then I say, and the teacher interrupts her and says, "Well, why would I say that?" And Riri responds, "You're supposed to tell me nursing and teaching are noble professions and that people like me don't grow up to be scientists." Why would I do that? The teacher's just like confounded here. And Riri says, "That's what they said to the first African-American female astronaut." The teacher responds, "Well, that was a long," and Riri interrupts. "And then she told them, 'No, I'm going to be a scientist.' And then she did it." And the teacher says, "Well, yes," she explains to Riri, "that was a long time ago. Things were different back then, but because of people like her, a girl like you can do whatever you want, fly anywhere you want, and be anyone you want." And that's a really great response. That's actually the teacher. That's like wholesome, right? That's a wholesome moment. The teacher is telling her, like, yes, like you're not wrong, but that happened a long time ago. And because of that, you now can do whatever. And so you would think that that would be her motivation. The scene should cut right there, right? Fade out, do that little wobbly thing with the underwater, right? Go back to the present day. You should be done. But no, look at Riri. Look at the next panel. She kind of scrunches her face up a little bit, like her eyebrows are furrowed. And she's looking back down at the picture. And she looks back up and says, "I was kind of hoping you'd tell me the opposite, so I would have something to inspire me to prove you wrong." And I'm flabbergasted just at that. I'm floored. I'm floored just at that. What your teacher just said to you should inspire you. That should uplift you. And really as the reader, because see, think about it. It goes beyond just what I'm saying here because think about what's being portrayed from the writer's perspective, because you're meant to identify. Riri is the main character. She is the main character of this book. This is the character you are meant to identify with. This is a flashback of the main character. So you are meant to identify with this feeling, because this is the motivation that, gives her that whole, I'm gonna become Ironheart. It's not like this is something that's corrected later. Do you get what I mean? This is her motivation. So they want you as the reader to identify with this character saying, "No, that wasn't not inspirational. You've got to tell me I'm oppressed. You've got to tell me what basically the opposite of," it says right here, "tell me the opposite. Tell me I'm oppressed so that I can prove you wrong. And the teacher says, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And this is the shot right here. It freaks me out. It's actually creepy if you think about it. Like, look at the way she stares at her like a serial killer, like a sociopath. Like, just what is going through her head? Just this cold, dead stare that the teacher is like, I'm not gonna be racist, sorry. You know, and just this cold, dead stare. And it continues. It even zooms in. Like, I wish I had the Kill Bill music queued up right now, you know, and flashing red. You know, it's creepy. It's creepy. And she says it doesn't stop. She stands there. She continues to stand there like a sociopath, to the point where the teacher, notice how the teacher had her back turned up here, and she can sense Riri's like dead stare. Just feels this sociopath like glaring down on her, and she's like, what is it? And Riri just continues to to stare at her and doesn't say anything. Doesn't even say anything. Just continues to stare. And so let me zoom out here. I don't know if you can see there. It sort of crops it out, but she says Tony Stark. She says, okay, you'll never be Tony Stark. I didn't mean for it to crop it out there, but that's what the teacher says. She says, okay, you'll never be Tony Stark. And then that's where it's like, okay, now I'm ready to be a hero. She says, really? I'm totally going to be Tony Stark. Except for that weird facial hair, which I guess is meant to be like a joke or something. Like haha, funny quip. You just got done staring down your teacher like a psycho, to the point where she could feel your presence, like a Jedi, like a Sith Lord, like Obi-Wan sensing Vader. And there's your hero. There's your hero. The teacher was actually very nice, gave her something inspirational that Riri could have taken, but Riri's like, no, tell me I'm impressed. Now, in contrast to that, I want you to take a look now at this. This is a very similar scene. The difference is, well, you'll see what the difference is. I'm just going to read it out for you here. But this is a very similar scene in the sense that we see a young Carly. Okay, so just like we saw Riri just then in elementary school, it said years ago, and sort of getting her motivation for why she wanted to, study and be like Iron Man and learn how to build a suit and all that. This is also where we see Carly sort of getting her motivation for why she is who she is and why she is pursuing her dreams. And it also happens at a young age. So you can see there's a lot of similarities, but you're also going to see the differences. So at the Vanders' residence, Carly's father is there, and he says, here you go, Carly, put this on your bump so it don't swell so much. Ow! Sigmund called to apologize again. He's real sorry about beaning you. He didn't mean to. I thought you hated baseball. I do hate it, more now than ever. But Miss Wormwood said, Miss Wormwood again. I'ma wring her neck at the next PTA meeting. Well, she said that girls can do everything that boys do, that girls should do everything that boys do, and that I was setting a bad example to other girls by making dresses. And see, here you go. It's sort of portrays what we see going on recently with the whole, oh, let's have girls do everything, not just that they can, but that they should, and that girls who want to be feminine and pursue feminine things are actually setting a bad example. This isn't just something that's in this book because, oh, they're being extreme, or they're it's hyperbole. No, these are things that actually happen. These are real world examples that comic books often reflect. And it's funny because they want to say that when people complain about the politics that are being pushed in Marvel and DC, but especially Marvel, the people who work for Marvel, their own words will say, well, if you don't like politics in comics, don't read it because politics have always been in comics. Well, here you go. Here's a perfect example. This is something that does happen where girls are told, don't make dresses, don't be feminine, don't pursue what you want to, but do what a boy would do. And you see here Carly saying, you know, she hates baseball, but she's kind of being pressured into it. And so her dad says, but don't you like making dresses? And she says, I do. I love making dresses. But she says girls aren't supposed to do that anymore. We aren't supposed to sew clothes or play with dolls or bake brownies. We're supposed to play baseball and lift weights and, I don't know, chop firewood and stuff. And you see Carly's not really having fun doing this stuff. She doesn't want to lift weights and play baseball and chop firewood and stuff, you know? She's not having fun. And so her dad says, I don't know much about girls chopping firewood or playing baseball, so long as that's what they like to do, what they want to do. But I do know there ain't nothing wrong with girls sewing pretty dresses. And see, that is as wise as you can get. He basically says, look, if girls want to chop firewood and play baseball, if that's what they want to do, if that's what they like doing, more power to them. But what he's saying is, I do know there's nothing wrong with girls sewing pretty dresses. So if you want to do girly things, you be a girl. And she says, Vicky never gets picked on like this. And her dad says, well, Miss Wormy never hassles your friend because Vicky already knows right certain what she wants to be. No one's going to talk her out of what she loves. A lot of folks are going to concern themselves with telling you to be something you're not. But all you got to focus on is being someone you are. I hope you remember this when you're all grown up. And that's what, and you can see her room there. She's got a bunch of dressmaking stuff laying around, ball of yarn, scissors, fabric, just a bunch of stuff that you can see, a sewing machine. That she obviously is really into that. You know, that's her passion. That's her dream. It's like how I want to be a voice actor, you know, or people want to get into making 3D animation or maybe make video games or things like that. Stop motions. You know, this is a passion. And just because it's a girly thing or it's feminine and, you know, girls can't be like that anymore, her teacher's telling her not to do it, and her dad says, forget all of that. All your life. And I love this right here. He says, a lot of folks are going to concern themselves with telling you to be something you're not. It's like they're going to make it their business, trying to tell you what to do and tell you what to be. And he says, just be who you are. And that's her motivation. That's her whole motivation. You see here, I mentioned before how she, it was kind of a reference to the Iron Man dancers from the MCU. But she follows her dream. She follows her passion. And despite how difficult it is for her, it doesn't go very well. And she's got people, you know, pushing back and all this. It doesn't stop her. It doesn't stop her from following her dream. And that's where you can see the difference. Two very similar scenes, yet miles apart. And see, and this brings me to my final point, which is that comic books, they often get brushed aside as quote kid stuff, you know, like, oh, it's just, comic books are just for kids. Even if you are talking about Marvel or DC, even if you're not talking about like little indie books or parody books or whatever, people often will brush it aside and just say it's kid stuff. But the recent landscape of popular movies and TV shows would really prove that anyone has an interest, just, you know, anyone can, and a lot of people do have an interest in superheroes. So it's not really just kid stuff. Superheroes are our modern day myths and legends. I've said this before. I have said this many times, and it's why comic books are so important to me. It's why I still read them. It's why I support books like this, because superheroes are the modern day myths and legends of our society, of our culture. And it's just as the ancient Greek and Roman societies, they looked to their heroes and their gods for inspiration and moral guidance, you know, like Hercules and Zeus, all those characters, all the myths and legends, they were meant to give guidance, you know, to inspire people to do what's right, to live a good life. Inspiration, moral guidance. And we look to these characters like Spider-Man and Superman, our superheroes, our comic book characters. We look to them as inspiration, as moral guidance, as the ones that inspire us to do what's right. You know, when you're sort of battling your conscience, because everybody has a conscience, you know, you have that voice in your head, but sometimes you fight against it. But when you get into these characters, these comic books and stuff, it inspires you to take the right path, to do the right thing. But when these characters like Spider-Man, like Superman, Batman, Captain America, all these characters, when they're being torn down by people who no longer care about the properties, because that's who's in control right now, the people who are in control of these companies, they don't care about the properties. They want to push their message, so they will tear down these characters that we've looked up to for so long until they're no longer recognizable as what they once were. That's when it's time for new heroes, new legends. And so I, for one, am standing with KAMEN America. This is my new hero. This will be a new legend. We need to support stuff like this. These indie books, these guys that are using their creativity and their talent to show what can be done, that comic books are not dead, that they can be alive and well, that stories are yet to be told, legends are yet to be written, that we can have new heroes. So I'm standing with KAMEN America. She's my new hero, because that is America's ass. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this. This was my review of KAMEN America. I fully recommend it. All kidding aside, it gets the highest of recommendations. It's a great book, great art, talented guys. They're super friendly. They're so excited when people support their stuff and they get their books in the mail. They'll retweet your post on Twitter and things. They're really excited about the fans that they have, about the support that they get, and they're delivering excellent product, quality, stories, art, everything, heart and soul, what's missing in modern comic. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Maybe learned some new stuff. If you already heard about KAMEN America, awesome. If not, please go check it out. Support the guys. Get a book if you are interested in it. There's more stuff coming out from them as well. It's not even over. It's an ongoing series. And as I mentioned before, there's some other series that we're going to cover in future streams. Wall Might, the Mandalorian. So I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. Thank you so much for everyone who supported Jazz. Thank you so much for the donation. Let me make sure there wasn't a message attached to that, because I will read that if there was. Okay, no, that was just you rolling out $1. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. We'll be back tomorrow with Sterner Stuff Friday Night Memes. We'll have another call-in stream where you guys can audition for cursed characters. So until next time, remember to stay weird and stay proud. And of course,
Until all is one.
Yes, until all is one.
I want to give a special shout out to the certified G1s, Jazzwolf Blaze, that's subpart VA, Damn It Open, Night Slash Prime, Mega Doomer, Bubbly Bubs, Ash, Gojira Wars 03, Battle Frame Studios, Johnny Ohm, Ultra Marcus, Lord Galvatron, and Ethan Reilly. And an extra special thank you to the real freaking Primes, Samick and Mega Doomer. Until next time. I just want to say